It all started one rainy Tuesday morning, the kind of morning when the sky feels too heavy and the air smells of something broken. My name is Alyssa Dunn, and for the last decade, I've been living a life that doesn't really belong to me. I'm not a mother, not officially, but I've been raising children who aren't mine, children that belong to my older sister, Cheryl. Now, before you judge me, let me tell you how it all spiraled. Cheryl has always been reckless. She got pregnant with her first child at 20, swore she'd turn her life around, but never did. Then the second baby came, then the third, then the fourth. And guess who ended up rocking cribs at 2 a.m., changing diapers, paying for formula, and showing up at parent-teacher meetings? Not Cheryl. Me. But wait, before I dive deep, let me ask you something. Backhand index pointing out, if your own blood sister kept dumping her responsibilities on you, would you keep saying yes, or would you walk away? Comment down below, because I really want to know if I'm the crazy one here. And hey, before we go further, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, this story, it's about to get darker than you can imagine. Anyway, at first, I told myself it was temporary. I thought Cheryl just needed time to figure things out. I let her crash at my small apartment in Madison, Wisconsin. She'd leave the kids with me, promising to pick them up later, but later always stretched into days, then weeks. Soon, they weren't visitors. They were practically mine. The neighbors even thought they were my kids. And in a way, they were. I fed them, bathed them, read them bedtime stories. I even worked double shifts at a diner just to keep food on the table. Cheryl? She was always gone, sometimes with her husband, Blake, sometimes with new friends I didn't even know. But things got worse. Much worse. One night, Cheryl came back drunk, storming into my apartment at midnight. Her mascara was smeared, her dress ripped, and her voice loud enough to wake the kids. She accused me of stealing her money. She claimed I'd taken cash from her purse while she was out working. Can you believe that? I laughed at first, thinking it was the alcohol talking. But then she got physical. She shoved me so hard I hit the kitchen counter, and one of the kids started crying. That was the night I realized Cheryl wasn't just careless, she was dangerous. Still, I stayed. I stayed because of the kids. But here's where the suspense begins. A week later, Cheryl announced she was pregnant. Again. For the 5th time. My jaw literally dropped. I couldn't even breathe. Are you insane? I shouted. You can't take care of the ones you already have. She smirked and said, that's what you're here for, little sis. You're good at this mom stuff. You'll handle it. That's when something inside me snapped. Backhand index pointing right, let me ask you, if your own sister used you like her personal nanny, would you explode, or would you stay silent for the sake of family? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is where my life started to twist into something I couldn't control. Days turned into weeks, and Cheryl's behavior spiraled even further. She and Blake fought constantly, screaming matches that ended with Blake storming out, sometimes not coming back for days. I could hear their fights through thin walls, words like cheater, liar, and get out echoing like bullets. And guess what Cheryl did to cope? She dumped the kids on me even more. But the breaking point came one evening when the landlord showed up at my door. Cheryl hadn't paid rent for months. And, because she'd used my name on the lease, the debt was mine now. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip up every photo of us as kids and burn them. But instead, I swallowed my rage. I looked at those innocent children, 4 pairs of eyes staring at me, scared and confused, and I knew they didn't deserve this chaos. So, I made a decision. I packed my things, grabbed the kids, and left. I moved us into a small studio apartment across town. It wasn't much, bare walls, 1 bathroom, barely enough space for all of us, but it was ours. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control. But Cheryl wasn't about to let me go that easily. She showed up at my new place 2 weeks later, banging on the door like a lunatic. When I opened it, she threw accusations like daggers. She claimed I'd kidnapped her children, that I was poisoning them against her. She even threatened to call the police. I should have been scared. Instead, I laughed in her face. Because deep down I knew the truth. Those kids already saw me as their real mom. But Cheryl wasn't done. One night, when I came home from my late shift, I found my front door slightly open. My heart nearly exploded in my chest. I rushed inside and found the kids huddled in the corner, crying. The living room was trashed, glass broken, furniture flipped, drawers pulled out. Cheryl had broken in. And she'd left behind a note. It read, "You'll regret this. They're mine, not yours. You can't keep them from me." That was the night I realized Cheryl wasn't just reckless. She was out for revenge. And this was only the beginning. Backhand index pointing right, tell me in the comments, what would you do if your own sister tried to take back the children you practically raised? Because the way I reacted, it shocked even me. That night, after finding Cheryl's note, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floor, every shadow on the wall made me jump. I sat by the kids' bed, watching their tiny chests rise and fall, vowing to myself that no matter what happened, I'd protect them. They were mine in every way that mattered. But Cheryl wasn't done playing games. The very next morning, I got a call from Child Protective Services. Someone had reported me for child neglect. They claimed I wasn't feeding the kids properly, that I left them alone at night while I worked. My stomach dropped. I knew exactly who had made that call. Cheryl. I wanted to scream. How could my own sister try to destroy me like this? But instead, I took a deep breath and cooperated with the caseworker. I showed her the fridge full of groceries, the kids' school reports, even the bedtime routine I'd written down and taped to the wall. By the end of the inspection, the caseworker actually smiled at me. She said, honestly, "You're doing a better job than most real parents I see." For a moment, I felt relief. But it didn't last long. 2 weeks later, Cheryl collapsed. She was rushed to the hospital, some kind of health scare that left her bedridden for days. And suddenly, I was torn apart inside. Because as much as I hated her, she was still my sister. I went to see her. She looked pale, weak, and almost human. Not the monster who had ruined my life, but just a broken woman lying in a hospital bed. She grabbed my hand and whispered, "Take care of them." I can't. My chest tightened. I wanted to tell her that I already had been taking care of them, that I had sacrificed my entire 20s for her children. But instead, I just nodded. Backhand index pointing right, and here's where I need to ask you. If you were in my shoes, would you forgive her in that moment? Or would you hold on to the anger that had been burning inside for years? Drop your answer in the comments, because this was the hardest decision of my life. After her recovery, Cheryl tried to slip right back into her old ways. She showed up at my apartment, smiling like nothing had happened, demanding to see the kids. I let her in, thinking maybe the hospital scare had changed her. But within an hour, she was screaming at them for making noise, criticizing me for spoiling them, and asking me for money. That was it. That was the final straw. I stood up, shaking, my voice louder than I'd ever heard it before. "Get out, Cheryl. You don't live here anymore. You don't run this family anymore. And you will never use me again." Her eyes widened, but I didn't stop. "You've lost your job, your husband doesn't even want to come home, and now you're losing me. Because I won't let you destroy me or these kids ever again." Cheryl laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh, but I slammed the door in her face. And for the first time in years, I felt free. But freedom came with guilt. That night, I cried harder than I had in a long time. Was I cruel for cutting her off? Was I selfish for choosing myself? Then I remembered the children's faces. The way they ran to me when they were scared. The way they called me mom when they were half asleep. That was my answer. From that day forward, I built a new life. I started working as a freelance designer, finally using my degree instead of dead-end jobs. I connected with a trusted friend, Tara, who helped me with the kids whenever I needed a break. Together, we created a stable, loving home. Cheryl's life unraveled even further. She lost her job, Blake abandoned her completely, and the world she had built on lies and recklessness crumbled. Sometimes she'd call me, sobbing, begging for help. But I never answered. Because every time I looked at those kids, I knew helping Cheryl meant hurting them. And then came the twist I never expected. One evening, months later, the oldest child, Emma, just 10 years old, looked at me with tears in her eyes. She whispered, "Aunt Alyssa, can I call you Mom now? Because you're the only one who really is." I froze. My throat closed up. Tears spilled down my face before I could stop them. I pulled her close and whispered back, "You already do, sweetheart. You already do." Backhand index pointing right, let me throw this question to you. If your sister abandoned her kids, but they asked to call you Mom, would you say yes? Or would that feel like betrayal to your family? I want to hear your thoughts. That was the moment everything became clear. This wasn't just a story about betrayal or revenge. This was about survival. About reclaiming a life that was stolen from me and giving 4 innocent children the chance at a better future. So when people ask me, "Do you regret cutting off your sister?" I smile and shake my head. No, because in losing her, I found myself. And in finding myself, I gave those kids something their mother never could, a real home.